Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing, and today we've got a combination that one of you guys requested that we try out. And it's definitely a pretty interesting combination with this particular shell and this very old school basic of a setup. And it very well could work out surprisingly decently for us. But as for the shells I brought out here today to test, I got out some of the Winchester Super X 12 gauge 3-inch 24 pellet load of 1 buck, moving about 1,040 feet per second. And it's been a little while since we've tested these, but from what I can remember, they were a decent performer. They are a buffered load, which does help, but I guess we'll just have to see what they can actually do through this old school setup today. And as for the setup I brought to run them through, I got out my old Mossberg 500A, but this one has a 30-inch barrel with a fixed full choke, and this particular fixed full choke measures out right at a 690 constriction, which is very typical full choke range, because sometimes these old school fixed choke barrels can either be pretty loose or pretty tight compared to your normal choke constrictions. This one, however, is pretty much right on the money for what I would expect, and we've seen some pretty decent performances out of it so far with some other tests we've done. But one of you guys wanted to see the old Mossberg with the fixed full choke with some 1 buck, so we'll see what it can actually give us. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the big sheet of paper at 40 yards. I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity from that 30-inch barrel. And I've got the templates that we can lay up over our target when we go check out our results as well. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see just what these Super X 24 pellet 1 buck shells can do through the old Mossberg 500 and the fixed full choke. It could look pretty decent. It could be pretty terrible, but we don't know until we try it. So let's go take our shot and see what we can actually get. Alright, so that round gave us 994 through the chrono. The box claim is only 1,040, so that's what, 46 feet per second under the box claim? And I honestly would have expected to see that box claim out of a 30-inch barrel. But from what I can remember, the last time or two we tested those shells, mid to high 900s is what we've been seeing. I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more velocity out of these shells personally, but considering it's a 24 pellet load of 1 buck, it is still gonna be good enough out to 40 or 50 yards or whatever for deer or hogs or whatever at that kind of velocity. So a little bit below their claim, but not anything abnormal considering what we have been seeing from these shells. But what kind of a pattern were we able to get from them at 40 yards through that old fixed full choke Mossberg? Let's go check it out and see what it gave us. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. Now, the white dot was my point of aim. The paper's 36 inches wide by probably about 42 to 44 inches tall, and we did have all 24 pellets on the paper, and I gotta say, that's not a bad pattern whatsoever right there. That would absolutely get the job done. I did measure, and from the farthest 2 points across, which was that very bottom flyer pellet down there, all the way up to this very top center pellet up here, that gave us 31 inches. But our center main portion of the pattern, if we don't include the flyers, was right at 20 inches across, and that's left to right, the main majority of the pattern you see right there on your screen. So that right there, that's not bad at all. And to be honest with you, from what I can remember, I think that might be the best pattern we've gotten from these shells. So once again, that old fixed full choke Mossberg has done surprisingly decent for us. That's a pattern you could absolutely take out on anything from a coyote hunt all the way up into a hog or a deer hunt without any question about it. So on the bare sheet of paper, looking pretty good, except maybe a couple of flyers around the edges. But that main majority right there is something that you can't really argue too much about. That's going to be plenty good enough. But let's throw some actual templates up, which will give us a little bit better of an idea of how it actually performed for us. Alright, so first up here is our 10-inch circle, and if we put it where the hottest portion of our core actually is, we would have about 8 pellets within there. Now 8 out of 24 doesn't seem like a whole lot, but as you can see, we did fill up a 10-inch circle pretty decently there, all things considered. And 8 pellets worth of 1 buck is more than enough through the vitals on anything you would want to use it for out to 40 yards or so. So definitely not looking too terrible there as far as our core goes. But let's throw some actual animal templates up, which will give us an idea of how this pattern looks if you were to take it out on a hunt. All right, so here's our deer template, and if we line it up with our point of aim, we can see that we have the majority of the load that would have hit this deer without a doubt, and it pretty well covered his entire vital area, plus a few through the spine and the lower neck as well. So I don't think that deer would have went very far, if anywhere at all. So for being an old school combination with a pretty basic load of 1 buck like that, you could absolutely take that out and deer hunt with it and be perfectly fine. I think looking at that pattern, you would probably run out of energy with these being a little bit lower velocity of a shell before you would actually run out of pattern capability, which is definitely not a bad thing to see. So for a deer hunt, definitely no complaints there. That's going to absolutely get it done any day of the week. And here's our hog template, and it's pretty well the same story. You would have absolutely covered him in pellets, and I don't think he's going very far, if anywhere at all. And that right there would be a pretty nasty load for your run and gun style hog hunting, that's for sure. If you're on a truck or a side-by-side or whatever, chasing a group of them around, that's gonna absolutely be a hammer for them. So overall, I don't think we can have too many complaints about this combination. For being an old fixed full choke 30-inch barreled Mossberg and a pretty basic load of 1 buck like that, that's going to absolutely hammer anything you would ever shoot with it out to 40 or 50 yards or so, even at that little bit lower velocity. So yeah, I don't think we can argue too much with that. I wouldn't hesitate to take that combo out on a deer hunt or anything like that. That's going to absolutely get the job done without a question. All right, y'all. Well, I apologize for the glare. I'll dim it down a little bit in editing for you. But what did you guys think about that combination right there? That's definitely not bad at all. For being a very old school setup like that, fixed full choke, 30-inch barrel with kind of Winchester's lowest grade 1 buck shell, I don't think we can complain too much about that. That is absolutely a combination you could take out on a deer or a hog hunt or anything like that. I mean, you could even hunt coyotes and foxes and whatever else with that combo out to 50 and probably even 60 yards as well with that kind of a pattern on those little bit smaller predators. So I don't think we can complain too much about that right there. I wouldn't hesitate to take that out after some deer or hogs or anything. And coming into it, I figured this was probably going to go one of two ways. Either we were going to see a pretty decent looking pattern, which I think we got here today, or it was going to be a pretty big letdown and a big disappointment. But that's why you always bring different combinations out here and try them, because you just don't know what a certain combo is going to do unless you try it. And clearly, I think we've got a pretty good one here for 1 buck. Definitely not a whole lot of complaints coming from me on that one. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Is that about what you expected? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of Winchester's 1 buck shells? Or do you have an old Mossberg with a fixed full choke barrel like that or anything, and you've run 1 buck through it? And is there another setup or combo that you want to see us try with these shells? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.